What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to today's video where we're going to decide whether or not I'm going to keep my 86 Iroc-Z Camaro around for a while and let it join the Trans Am and the Z06 in a long-term place in the garage, make a project out of it, or if I'm going to actually sell it. So if you guys have been watching the series or if you're new to the channel, about a couple of months ago I ended up buying this 86 Iroc-Z after seeing it for sale on Facebook Marketplace. After a long time of shopping for a good project, third gen after selling the last one I had on the channel, and I thought I could bring you guys another interesting one, and this one really fit the bill. The first time I went and looked at it, we couldn't get it started. The starter was actually locked up, and the prior owner put in a new starter and got it fired up. A couple days later, I still had first crack at it after their phone was blowing up and everything, and I actually went back and picked it up with my buddy. So he came and met me at my house. We drove way up into the woods of Minnesota, and we picked this up out of a guy's yard where it's been sitting for a couple of years, and I actually ended up driving it home. A couple days later, me and my dad went and power washed it, got all the years of mold and grime and everything nasty off of it. I vacuumed out the interior and got all the dead mice and the mold and all the puke and whatever droppings were in it. It was really disgusting. I gave it a little tune-up with a new air filter element and some spark plugs and an oil change. I did quite a bit of homework and found out that the original LG4 305 was gone out of the car, and what was actually in it is a 350, which is likely a 2-bolt main out of like a light truck or a passenger car or maybe a Corvette if I was super lucky. But it's either a 2 or 4-bolt main 350 from right around 1974, and that's what I kind of figured out on it after looking at the casting codes and everything. So we actually have a 350 5-speed combo, which is not available from the factory on these cars, and it's ideal for just cruising around and doing a little bit of racing, and you know, it's going to be quicker than a lot of the T5 5-liter cars were, in my opinion. So what we actually end up having is a pretty cool little small block T5 combination, which wasn't offered from the factory on these cars. Now, most of you guys know that, but if you had a T5 in these, it came with a 305. If you wanted a 350, it came with an automatic. So that's something you couldn't really get around on them from the factory unless you have some sort of freak, which would be a very, very low or no production car. So maybe there is a couple 350 5-speed cars out there, but you're not going to find them. So after finding all that out, it became decision time on what to do with it, and I actually ended up talking to MGW shifters about putting a short shifter in that to at least give it a new lease on life and kind of make it fun to drive, and they actually ended up making the first T5 short shifter for F-body Camaros and Firebirds based on this car. So that was the last upload. A lot of you guys thought it was really cool, and I thought it was super cool because this car is near and dear to my heart, and to be part of that in any way is really special. So what we're gonna do now is actually go outside, get all the snow and everything off of it, see if it's gonna do a cold start now that I've got the choke fixed on it. So the first thing I'm seeing is that the choke is actually wired shut right now. It's wired wide open, so this is actually just a little retaining wire that somebody put there. So what I'm gonna do to start, one of those. Anyways, so that's going to give us our choke actually able to shut it a little bit. Now I can't tell if it's traveling all the way, but what I've got to do is wire a ground to this, and Edelbrock recommends running your ground wire right here. So what they're going to want is a running 12-volt source, not just switch. It's got to be 12 volts while the engine is running. So this is because this is an electronic choke. It was never wired in, and what I'm going to do is wire it in. And ideally, we're gonna actually get a little bit of choke out of this when I'm done and be able to start the car a lot easier. So, might have to fine tune it a little bit, but it's gonna be a good start. Alright, so I actually had to loosen this up quite a bit, but what's gonna happen, and I can loosen it, what's gonna happen when it's cold is that this choke is gonna open and shut now. So it was actually not working at all before. I'm just going to adjust it till it shuts, and I'm going to set it about right there. I'll have to remake my little ground wire, but that's what I'm going to want. So I think that's about all I've got to do. So the choke is slowly opening, and you can probably tell. Over time, the clock spring in here is going to warm up, and it's actually going to physically uncoil inside of there, and I believe that's what opens this. I've never really set one of these up before, so I didn't know how to test it, so I just let it run with 12 volts hot to the coil for a while. And it is opening on its own, which is pretty cool. I didn't know that it was going to do that. and we're gonna go under the car and make sure that there's no subframe or like the rear torque box, or what we might call a torque box on a Fox body Mustang, where the rear control arms actually mount to the body. I'm just gonna make sure that I'm not missing any rust on it, because I think I know what I'm gonna do with the car, and hopefully you guys are on board with the decision. I know a lot of people want me to keep it and some people don't, but we'll figure it out at the end of this video what I'm gonna do with it. So let's go outside. Okay, so you can probably see it is darker out by now, and I had, as you can see by my hands and everything, I just chased down the dumbest problem that I totally overlooked on a car ever. I got the dash starting to be ripped apart. I've been metering things, looking all over into the dash, checking fuses. I had no power to the key, accessories didn't work, headlights didn't work, dash lights, nothing. So we've got power again. And believe it or not, what was actually causing it the whole time was this loose negative battery terminal. Look at that. So if I had to guess, I'll be able to fire up the car now and actually go drive it. I checked fusible links on the starter. I pulled the starter wires apart, took all this loom apart and everything. I've been checking all over through here. I had power to everything but the ignition or the key. It was a very strange problem. So I'm just glad that that's over. I thought it was dead for good, but like always, it tends to be something simple. So there's a lesson to be learned there that I just learned the hard way again. I just wasted like 1 hour. I was gonna go, it went click, and I had nothing. Furthermore, I'm wondering if that was my charging issue the entire time. I never noticed that that negative battery terminal was loose until right now. So, learn something every day, I guess. Alright, so I've got a much better made ground. I took my little pneumatic Scotch-Brite pad and really cleaned up that bracket on the alternator. I put some battery protectant sealant on it, followed both ends here. Got a proper little grounding lug here, so thanks EMAC for that. And I also cut out some more of the harness that wasn't hooked up to anything, and just making it more of a rat's nest and confusing when you look at it. So otherwise, that's about all I'm going to putz with for now. It's starting to look better and better each time I touch it, as crappy as the car looks overall, but it's a start. So I'll clean up all these tools and we'll get out of here. So you can hear the car running in the background right now, and the only thing I really did to get this working with the cold start is got the electronic choke actually adjusted and set up, because prior to me touching it, it was actually hardwired wide open. I'm going to pull it forward and I'm going to take a look under it at the front and rear subframe and just make 100% sure that there's no rot that I'm missing or anything like that, because honestly, after reading everything you guys have said, I've decided I'm going to keep the car and actually work on it. It's going to be kind of the primary focus on the channel for a little while. Other stuff will be happening in the background, the other two cars, and I'll still upload that stuff, but most of my focus is going to be on the 3rd gen, because I think it's a really interesting car to work on, and you guys have spoken, so bring more to you. Actually sounds pretty good, I'm not going to lie. Alright, so I got the area on the car all cleared out, and we'll take a quick peek under it right now. When I pulled the car forward, after the car warmed up, I blipped the throttle a little bit, came right down to idle, so the car's actually running really good. It sounded pretty good on the cold start if I'm being honest. So let's head back outside and take a quick look at it, and we'll see what we've got for rust and just make sure we're making the right move, because if subframe rails are gone, it's kind of not worth it, to be completely honest. But everything that I've seen so far tells me it's worth saving. So the wind is really bad out here right now, so if I have to do some overdubbing or whatever, you'll hear it, but hopefully it's not too windy. So let's take a look under the car. Alright guys, so here's a quick look under the car. The first look at the passenger side frame horn looks nice and solid. Doesn't look like it's ever been stretched, like it's been on an alignment rack or anything like that, like it's been just nailed. Now I did know about the little bit of rust over here, so this is the one spot that I know of that's soft on the car. Trunk well's nice and solid. Here we are on the driver's side frame horn. This one looks nice and solid too. Everything up here seems to be pretty solid. The pinch weld and all that's in pretty good shape. The exhaust is really cobbled together on it. There's a quick view at it. Got some really proper booger welds and some more remaining. And we have some remaining mold from when I first bought the car. Obviously I haven't cleaned under it all that well. The pinch weld all the way back looks pretty good, so I'm expecting the back of the car to be in pretty good shape overall. Let's check out the driver and passenger side. Everything's looking nice and solid under here. You probably can't see all that well because it's very dark, but I could see when I was looking at it, it's pretty good. The total condition of the car overall, like inside these wheel wells and everything, as you'll see, the undercoating or whatever's in there is kind of flaking, but it's not rotted out, which is good. Even the fender lips in here, they're a little bit dinged in and all that, but nothing's rusting. Front lower radiator support is a little bit crunchy, as you can see, but that's as bad as it gets under the car. It's not like totally rotted out or anything. Overall, it's in pretty okay shape. It's definitely workable, and I would say savable. So here's a view of the driver's side, pinch welds and all that. So the floor's got a lot of scale and everything, but it's not totally gone. Like even there, it's scaly. It's not bad. I have seen and owned way worse, so I'm thinking overall we got something to work with here. Pinch weld's pretty good all the way down, straight, so those Detroit Speed subframe connectors might work pretty well on this side. The other side is a little bit more mangled. Rest of the car underneath. Here's the rear driver's side. What I would call the torque box, I guess, for the lower control arms. Looks to be in pretty good shape, so all in all, this car is in pretty good shape. As rough as it looks outside, I have seen and owned worse. Inside of here, it looks like there's been a quarter put on at one time. They didn't do that great of a job because the overlap isn't perfect. I noticed that a while after actually buying the car, unfortunately. But, and all through this area here, there's actually a little ripple in the quarter panel. So it looks like they actually skinned it up to here. So this quarter panel's been done, and who knows what else. But let's finish this up in the garage. It's really windy out here and cold. I actually don't plan on doing much to it today, so let's finish this up in the garage. All right, now I'm figured to bring you guys in the car with me. Yeah, that thing runs good. I'm not gonna lie, the small block actually runs pretty good in here in a world of LS swaps. This is actually a pretty good little motor. So as you can see here, after doing that little repair, my voltmeter is actually holding nice and steady. So it's still not like 100% perfect, but it is a lot better than it was. So the battery might be getting weaker, the alternator might be getting weak, but with the radiator fan on, it doesn't actually bog down to like 9.5 or 10 volts on the gauge. So it's in a lot better shape than it was with that battery fixed up. But there's another part of the car here that actually was part of my decision, and it's that right around 10 years ago, I had a black 91 Z28 Camaro, and I was working on it in the same garage, in the same house with my cousin, and I've got a lot of good memories in these cars. So this is kind of it's more of a sentimental buy to me. I've always wanted the 5-speed Iroc, and it's kind of the perfect car for that. They're getting more and more expensive to buy, and honestly, for what I paid for this one, as you know now, is $2,800. I've still got under $3,000 into it total, and so far it drives really good. I think I can make something pretty cool out of it, and The way that these cars are going lately, it sure seems like the prices keep going up on them, and I think it's for good reason. They're actually a pretty neat little car, and they're not a lot of money right now. So if you haven't bought one yet, I'd probably get on it. I'd probably get one. That's all I'm doing on the car today. Obviously it's really windy and crappy outside, being winter here in the northern part of the United States, but what I really wanted to do was give you guys an update on it and kind of tell you where I was at with the car. So there's a little bit of an update for you guys, and I hope you guys are happy to see that it's going to stay. So the car is actually in as good of shape as I expected it to be. You know, I should have looked at this a lot closer prior to this, but before actually buying the car and working on it, I kind of bought it to flip it. But after going through it, working with MGW on the short shifter, I've already got enough sentimental value attached to it where I am going to keep the car for a while, if not forever, and I'm actually going to build it on the channel, make it something pretty cool. Now, let me know what you guys think. Personally, I'd like to keep the small block Chevy and T5 in it for a long time and work on the handling and braking on it. I'd really like to lower it and really just try and clean up what's there and try and keep it as original looking as it can be. And as you heard, it sounds pretty good just as it is. It could use some exhaust work because there is quite a few exhaust leaks and things like that. But otherwise, that small block actually makes decent power. It's not as quick as either of these two cars, but that's not really the point of the car. It's supposed to be, you can park it outside, you can go beat on it, have some fun in it, and park it wet and not really worry too much about it, because it's what I'm going to do with it isn't really going to hurt it or hurt its value or anything like that. So let me know what you guys think. Would you guys LS swap it? Would you run the T5 and the small block Chevy for a while until they actually get hurt or blow up, and then maybe consider LS swapping it? I don't know. I'm going to listen to you guys' opinion. I listened to it last time, and that actually really influenced my decision on keeping it. So drop a comment down below and tell me what you would do to it if it was your car. Well, that's going to wrap up today's video. I hope you guys like it. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you got some buddies that you think would enjoy the build series or actually check out these other two GM cars, I'll be working on all of them. Definitely give them a share or tag them in it or do whatever to get the word out a little bit. It really does help the channel, and it's helping me do this stuff. So the more that you guys share and like it or chat on it, or especially subscribing to the channel, it really helps the channel grow and is enabling me to do this fun stuff. So that's about all I got for you guys. I'm not going to rant or shake my tin cup anymore. We'll see you guys in the next one.